Hello, welcome back. It's Jamie here. Today I'm doing an 8.5 by 11 layout, and this is using the Emma Jewel Crafts the July kit. I'm on their design team, so this is the first project I created using the kit this month. And what I've decided to do is to do this photo of a sunflower that's growing in our backyard. And I have two photos, one with this really gorgeous butterfly on it, and then another one is just a really what I think is quite a nice photo. These are the first photos that I took on my new camera, so I was just testing them outside and I think they turned out awesome. But what I'm doing with this layout is I was deciding whether or not I wanted to do it on black cardstock or if I wanted to do it on white cardstock, and I do actually end up deciding to do it on the black. I know I'm focusing on the white here, but I thought that what I wanted to do was to do a little bit of mixed media because I wasn't entirely sure how I was going to use some of the supplies. I had an idea in mind because there's a lot of yellow in the kit and the photo has yellow as well. I thought it'd be a perfect fit. So I do actually decide to grab out these things. They're called paint sticks. I got them from Daiso here in Australia a little while ago, and what they are is like a metallic kind of like an oil pastel a little bit, except they're a little more of a paint consistency and they dry really nice. They're very creamy, and I'm just testing it on this black sheet of paper here just to see how it would look. And what I decided to do is use it as a mat for the photo on that black cardstock. So I've grabbed a new piece of black cardstock out and I'm going to trim it down to 8.5 by 11. I just have to trim it down slightly because if you didn't know, if you didn't know, A4 sheets of paper are actually just a little bit too big for an 8.5 by 11 page protector. They're about a centimetre too big, so I normally just trim that off, and then I'm going to start the layout. So I knew I wanted to do a composition of the photos exactly how I have it right there. I just didn't know if I wanted to have it at the top of the page or the bottom of the page, and I do decide to go with the bottom. So like I said, I'm just going to use that paint stick right there. I'm just going to rub it all over the page. I was very fortunate this kit that it had some alphas, because alphas are something that I always do on layouts, so I knew I had to do a layout with this kit. And I'm just sort of picking out what I was going to use. I was still going to go with a yellow theme at this point, so I grabbed out those yellow papers, and then I decided at the very end that I'm actually going to go with more of a green theme. I was initially going to do a whole 6x6 piece of paper, but I do end up changing my mind, and I just end up matting the paper with just some double-sided tape and then that paper. When I'm matting paper, I tend to do one whole one and then I do ones off to the side. So I'm going to use this yellow one because I do really love the colour of yellow, and because the photo was yellow, I definitely wanted to sort of bring that out and focus in on it. And also I'm going to use that yarn that you saw before to also draw in more of that yellow colour and just add a nice pop to the page. I'm doing the same paper layers on both sheets of I'm doing the same paper layers on both photos, as I wanted them to be connected together. I'm very out of practice at doing voiceovers, sorry guys. I wanted them to be connected together, and then I'm also going to use this green one as well, and I do it a little bit off to the side so that it felt balanced. As you can see on that 2x3 photo right there, I have a piece off to the side that I've teared off, so I'm going to do a very similar thing on the larger photo so it feels a bit balanced. What I like to do is, if you do something to one thing, do it to the other if you want it balanced. If you want one of your photos to be the center stage, then I wouldn't do that, but I wanted these to be very similar in focal. I like the big photo, but the little photo I really like as an element, and I wanted them to be both as prominent on the page as each other. So I find that having equal paper layers really allows you to have a balanced layout. So I'm just connecting the two photos together so that I know exactly where I need to use that paint stick on the black cardstock. The reason I'm doing that is I'm actually going to mark it with a lead pencil to make sure that it is 100% exactly where I want it. Number one, because this green paint stick is going to be very hard to cover, so I need to make sure it's in the right spot. So there we go, I've just grabbed out a pencil and I'm going to mark the corners of the photo so that I know exactly where it is. this is something that I typically do if I know that it's going to be really hard to cover up the mixed media. If I'm doing just ink like you would have seen in some other one of my layouts, if you go through my channel, I don't do this, but when I'm using things like paint sticks or a lot of thick paint, I typically tend to measure it up. And also I didn't need to fill in the centerpiece. I just do the outside of where I know it's going to be showing. If it's not showing, I don't cover it. So I'm using this as an extra layer to the photo and to really make it pop in person. This looks so cool. The metallicness of the green really, really sticks out. And I'm just checking to make sure I need any extra here. And I just wanted a little bit more, and I just wanted to sort of fade it out a little bit, which is why you can see I'm kind of flicking it away just to give it a little feathering is what I would call it. I would do this if I had a paintbrush, sort of making it really dry, but because this isn't a paintbrush, I kind of flick it away to get that feathering effect, and it looks really, really cool. And I do let this dry for a few minutes. If you were doing this with paint, if you want to recreate this layout, I would just leave it for 10 minutes. Acrylic paint typically doesn't take too long to dry. Next, I'm going to use a white gel pen and do a border around the outside. This is the Uniball Signo Broad gel pen from the 2 gel pens that I've tried. Not a lot. This is the best one that you can find, especially if you live here in Australia. But there's definitely a lot around. This is a very thick gel pen. I like it because the ink seems to be very, very opaque compared to other ones that I've seen. If you're looking for a gel pen, just go to your art store and test them. As you could just see with the yarn there, I decided to do sort of like I'm going to call it a shelf of the yarn, and I'm just using a little bit of wet glue just to stick the photo down. I wish I'd actually put a little bit of foam tape under the bottom of the photo now that I've finished it. However, I can't really go back and change it, but that's okay. It still looks really cool. The title I'm going to go for today is Growing Strong, because the plant is growing and it is a very hearty plant, a sunflower. This actually just grew in the pot plant that my grandparents have. It's actually it's an orange plant. It's a citrus fruit, I believe, and they actually just threw some dirt in there and it had a sunflower in it, and the sunflower grew. So they're a very, very, very hardy plant here that I've seen. So I put the title down, Growing Strong. What I'm doing in this top corner is I'm actually going to create a embellishment cluster at the top. So I'm using the inside of my double-sided tape just to get a circle. I don't have a circle punch or a die that is this large, so I'm just using anything around me. You could use a cup if you wanted to. A teacup would work great. They're about the size of what I used, and I'm just sticking it down. I initially decided to use this one, and then I think I do end up changing it for the different color. So down the bottom, what I'm doing is measuring up the yarn, and I'm doing it in 3 so that it is 3 wide, and I'm going to actually staple it across the page. And you could do this with twine. I've done this with twine before. You could also do this with what's it called? It's like any sort of ribbon trim you could do this with. I just decided to do it with the yarn because I wanted, like I said before, just to get a little bit of extra color, and I think that it looks, particularly the small 2x3 photo, it's almost the exact same color as the yellow on the sunflower. So what I'm going to do is I've stapled it on, and I'm actually just going to fold it over and washi tape down those little excess pieces on the side. I did fiddle around with it a little bit, so I do cut it out of the video, but as you can see here, they're all stuck down. And you could also, if you wanted to, staple it with it around the outside. You could staple it around the outside. You could staple it with it on the back, and you wouldn't actually be able to see it. So as you can see, I've decided to change up that circle piece of paper just for the other green paper from the kit, because I just thought it would tie together, because I did use that to mat the larger photo. So I'm just going to stick that down with some double-sided tape, and put it in that top corner. What I'm going to do in that top corner is add a few embellishments to balance it, because I did think it felt a little bit bare. So it needed something in that top corner. I kind of wish I had actually done it in the opposite side, so that it would sort of offset where that title is. But I'm going to punch out a few 1-inch circles from the holographic paper that came in the kit, and also some yellow hearts that also came in the kit. And I'm just trying to make a few little, I'd call them DIY embellishments. I had that bow sitting on my desk for, I don't know how long, a few months. Honestly, it's been a few months, and I just thought, you know what, it'll work on this page. Black, the white will sort of brighten it up a little bit, I felt like. So I just stuck that down and put the holographic circle behind it so it had something to kind of sit on. I like to do that. I'm also going to put this leaf from the sticker sheet that came in the kit, and that is sort of all the embellishments I do down the bottom. What I decided to do at the top is I do use that yellow heart, and I'm going to start off by putting some foam tape on it, but I actually do decide to take it off eventually because I didn't like the way that it looked. It was sort of a little too in your face, but this is very, very easy to recreate this layout. It's very quick, it's very simple. I'm pulling off some of the arrows that came on the letter sheet. I love it when alpha sheets I love it when alpha sheets have arrows on them. It's one of my favorite parts of them. The alpha sheet did come with the kit. This tiny word sticker book did not come with the kit. This is just from my stash here in Australia. That came from the Reject Store, if you are curious. And I think they just say things like green is good. Funnily enough, this tiny word sticker sheet actually has a lot of nature-based phrases and kind of everyday phrases. So they worked really, really well with this. And because they had those two really nice green colors, they really worked well. And I do look at the circles for a while because I wasn't sure if I wanted to use one. I did just get this when I did this layout, so I really wanted to use it. Up the top, I know it's missing a few things, so I decided to keep adding a little sticker. That is a puffy sticker from my stash. These are some tiny word stickers also from my stash because I thought it needed a little gold element. I do end up adding a gold heart. I just put that word today down there because this layout, like I said, it isn't very, of an event. It's just a nice, beautiful photo of a sunflower, which is why I decided to put it on there. And just putting down a few extra things from the alpha sheet. That's where that heart is from my stash. However, the two other gold pieces were from the alpha sheet. And I'm going to also add down a few wood veneer from my stash. Wood veneer is a staple in every single one of my layouts, so I definitely needed to add that on here. I did feel like it was starting to get a little bit wordy, the layout, so I just decided to not put the words down, and I just go with this really, really cool sunflower wood veneer. I've had this for a really long time. I'm pulling off the double-sided tape here because that heart just wasn't sticking down the way I wanted it to. So I'm putting down this sunflower wood veneer up the top just so there's a little bit extra to that cluster. It's really easy to create embellishment clusters when you have tiny little elements like this. And I'm also going to use some gold spray from my stash. Just add a little bit of gold sparkle to the page, and I think it really works well on the black because it does show up really, really nicely in person. I'm just putting it mostly around where it is and kind of leaving that top left hand corner quite blank. I hope you enjoyed this layout. I'll have some close-ups for you at the end. This was really, really fun to make. Oh, I'm just putting down an extra wood veneer piece. Oh, I forgot I did that. But yeah, I'll have a close-up for you all. Stay tuned, hopefully, for another layout with the kit soon. I hope you have fun, guys. Bye.